Hello, this is Joe Peters with MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the Her Network on Single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Single TV app in the respective app stores, iOS and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure that you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Single TV is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Stick, Roku, and Roku Stick in all smart TVs since 2016. If you want to follow us, please go and follow us in all our social media handles in the bottom. And you are today up for a treat because we are going to be talking about showing up like ourselves in motherhood. I am super excited to have Tammie here with us. Hi, Tammie. Tammie is going to navigate through this show time into how to not feel guilty when we take time for ourselves, for exercise, for working in our business, or even having me time. And I will tell you a fun story that just happened yesterday that I was preparing for the show and I realized something about that. Tammie is a creative entrepreneur, life coach, and host of the Show Up Society podcast. She takes what she learned from owning her stationary business and coaching runners for over 13 years and use those skills to help her clients to show up for themselves and their biggest goals. She helps people removing the blocks that are keeping them stuck so they can achieve their goals with confidence and fun. Tammie loves teaching others how to create and keep a tiny daily habit so they can achieve their goals from the incremental improvements every day. So, Tammie, welcome. Thank you for being here with us. I'm super excited to be having this conversation with you. And let's gonna start just with you sharing a little bit about your story, who you are, and why you decide to have that call about helping moms to show up for themselves.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Joe. This is gonna be fun. I have 3 teenagers now, but a long, long time ago, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had kids, and I struggled to find time for myself. I was a competitive runner in high school and in college, and I wanted to get back to running, but I didn't know how to do it when I had a little baby at home and no childcare. So, it became really important to me to find ways to exercise even though I had kids. And so, it took me a few years, but I figured it out. And then I became a coach for other moms to do fitness um, when they didn't have childcare. So they brought their babies to the fitness class and we did it with the babies in the stroller. And we would, do some bicep curls and then sing a song to the babies. And we made it work. And it just was really important to me to show moms that you can do both. You can be fit, you can do things for yourself while you're being a good mom.
Absolutely. I love that because I will tell you the story. I was preparing for the show, reading about you, and so I have my nanny here with me taking care of my baby
Hmm.
every day. And then yesterday I did Zumba while she was here. And then when I was preparing the evening for the show, I was like, oh, it just hit me that all these months, I'm not being feeling comfortable using some of the time that I have with her in the house for me to work out because it's not
Hmm.
right, right? She's here, I should be just working and producing. It's not
Right.
about like how I can just use the time that I'm putting her to choke my baby to work out. And then it was a blow moment because I was like, what the heck, Joe? If you have
Yeah.
time and she's here, absolutely she can get it. So if not, you will go to that point. So it's interesting how we all carry some of these guilt and some of these beliefs of what motherhood should be and how we should show up for ourselves versus our kids.
Yeah. I think we're even taught, even little girls, like when we're 3 years old, we give them baby dolls and say, "Oh, take care of the baby. Oh, the baby's crying. You better change a diaper." We teach girls even from that young age that we are caretakers, that we have to make sure that everybody around us is taken care of. And yes, that's true, but that doesn't mean that you forget to take care of yourself too, right? And so I think sometimes we just lose focus. We just look outwards at the people around us and try to help them, and we forget to look at us and say, we need things too. So yeah, that's
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was actually seeing a video of J Lo
Mhm,
talking about that and talking about how is almost and then talking about situation and culture and generations, right? For 2 3 generations ago, the only job that they were allowed to have was being a mom and being a household. Like 60 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So because of that, generationally is being almost like whereas a badge of honor, like as much as I sacrifice for the family, as much as I do for the family, as much
mhm.
as I give everything that I have from the family, as better job I am doing. And sometimes I feel that as we start evolving, we fail at evolving that concept with us, and we are still stuck in that concept from 200 years ago, where that was the reason and the purpose of life of many of the females, when now our role is different. And I will, being a feminist, I will even say that even then, taking care of their family should never mean that they were the last one. They were the last one. Like, I will tell you a secret, and I hope that my mother-in-law is not watching this live. It drives me crazy when my mother-in-law is always the last one to sit down to eat. I'm like, come on.
Yeah,
And she's like, start eating. And I'm like, no, we're going to eat as a family. So why we have that in the brain that we are the last one to eat, that we are the last one to take care of, that everybody else gets ready and get a shower and we just go in our sweatpants without a shower. So
it's so true. And, you're right, like, our world is changing, but our mothers, grandmothers, aunties, they haven't changed yet. So it's funny, a lot of the clients that I work with, they're feeling that pull. So they are younger, like a more, current generation, and they're knowing that it's okay to work on their business or work on themselves and be a mom, but they have mothers or aunties or, cousins or family members that live with them or live near them that are giving them a hard time for doing things for themselves or doing things out of the household. So they have this pull where they're like, all of the elders that they were supposed to respect are telling them like, you should only be doing mom stuff and you shouldn't be doing this for yourself. That's selfish. But they live in this current generation where they think that's okay and that we're supposed to be doing stuff. And so it's really hard to kind of to teach the ones that came before us that this is okay.
absolutely. And let's gonna start with that because I have one thing that blow my mind on the pre information with you. But let's gonna start with that. For these new moms, for our audience, these are pregnant moms, moms to be, and moms in the first 12 to 18 months. So they are dealing with all the hormones, with sometimes being first time mom, doing things for the first time. So, what are some of the things that they can do either preventively when they are pregnant or after they have their baby to start bringing on board some of these old generations? So, because the reality is, in my opinion, that is a very beautiful gift, right? Because they have a lot of the wisdom, a lot of the care, a lot of the love to be able to support us immensely, like it's supposed to, because we were never supposed to be doing motherhood alone. And at the same time, have clear, healthy boundaries to tell them, hey, these are my self-care, my self-love boundaries that are non-negotiable. And that doesn't mean that I don't need your help, because sometimes they get hurt, right? They're like, oh well,
Right.
if you know everything, then I'm not going to help on anything, and you just call me when you need me. So
Mhm.
how these mamas that are watching us can have that perfect balance and still have the support and the help that they need from their aunties and their moms and their grandmas, and explain them and take them on board on this new way of thrive as moms.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I think the tricky thing about boundaries is that we think that a boundary is to change someone else's behavior, but a boundary is really just to say how we're going to act. So we can say to our mom, Mom, I am going to have an hour a day where I go exercise. If you could help with the kids, that would be great. Thank you. And the mom could get mad and you can set this boundary with them, but you're not going to change mom's behavior. You can only control you. And so if you just kind of let go of wanting your mom to agree with you or think the same thing, then you can say, okay, mom thinks this way, I think this way, and it's okay that we're different. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong, because what happens is a lot of times we think if we think something different from our mom, then we're the ones wrong, that it's wrong, that we're wrong. But it's like, no, you're just different. You think moms can go out of the house for an hour. Mom doesn't think so. And that's okay. You can be different. Neither one of you is wrong. And so I think a lot of us spend a lot of energy and get upset that mom doesn't understand us. Mom doesn't have to understand us. We get to just be ourselves. We don't understand our moms either. We're like, how could you stay in the house all day and just be a mom? But we can let her be her and have her own beliefs. And we can let us be us, and we can still love each other and be there for each other without having to change each other.
That is amazing and so true. Actually, I was working with some of my coaching group females and moms about that and boundaries, right? Because I completely agree with you. When we talk about boundaries, and that is why it's so hard to put boundaries, because we put the boundary, or they teach to put the boundary, or we assume the boundary is just telling others what they are not allowed to do, what we are not accepting them to do, what. So it's all like, this is what, I'm not accepting you to do this or that. And like you were saying, that is just you trying to change them, versus you saying, hey, if you do that, this is how I'm gonna react. If you do that, like for example, on the conversation with mom being upset, it's just saying, not only accepting that she's going to get upset, but say, mom, if you are going to get upset every time that I ask you to help with the kids because I need to take care of me working out, then I'm going to stop asking you and I'm going to find somebody else. And that is a healthy boundary that give mom an option of choosing. And then again, we don't try to fix her. So I love it. Tammie, there is something that blew my mind. And with your permission, I think that I'm going to use this in my next coaching call.
Okay.
Because your point on, you don't have to fill your cup just so you can give to others.
Yes.
Because that is the most common thing that we use as females to excuse ourselves for taking
Yes.
care of us. So it's like, oh, I need to take care of me. So mask first, so I can put other people, other kids, or other people oxygen mask first. And then after that blow mind statement, you put, you can fill your cup just because you're an amazing human who deserve to do things for yourself and deserve to have a full cup. And that blow my mind, because I have a very clear image in my head of how crazy it is to have a mug of coffee that we are pouring, but at the same time we have a little
Yes.
hole going out. So yeah, we are pouring in the cup and filling the cup, and the cup is constantly leaking out on the other way. That is what we were doing in the first part that you were saying, is we are filling it so we can give to others,
Right.
versus catch that, fill the cup just because you want to have a warm, nice cup feel, and then after that decide if you want to share some of that or not. So I was gonna talk a little bit about that, because that was like, absolutely, I was absolutely in love with that concept.
Yeah, it's so funny that you picked up the cup, because that's how I explain it to people too. I'm like, "You're just filling it so it can just empty right out to someone else." But, we know it's important for people to have full cups, right? That's why we're always trying to help fill their cup, but we're forgetting like, "Wait, I'm a people too that gets to have a full cup too." And so, um, I just kind of thought of that one day and I'm like, "Wait a minute. Why are we filling our cup so that we can fill others? What if we just fill it for ourselves?" And this is the thing. This is what I teach a lot too. It's not a selfish thing to wanna have a full cup, because what it means is if we are feeling, rejuvenated, and if we're feeling like we've given ourselves what we need, then we want to show up and give love to other people, and it doesn't drain us because 'cause we've already fed ourselves. And so, yes, we still might end up giving people more, if we want to, but it's coming from this place where we're so full that we're like, I want to give you some because I have so much, right? Instead of like, oh, I got to fill it up because so much of it's draining out. It's a really different energy and it feels good. It feels almost more like loving when you filled your cup up and then you decide to help fill others, it feels more loving instead of more like obligation, like I have to help fill their cup.
And when you were talking, I was even thinking of the analogy of the cup. It would be different if the cup had a hole that, because if the cup has a hole and you stop filling, then the quantity is going to start going low until you get empty. That is what happened with us mamas. We get our cup empty, and then we get burnout, and then we get resentment, and all those other cascadings. Versus, like you were saying, is filling the cup and give only when your cup is full, and then overflowing.
Yes.
So what you are giving is not your cup; is the excess that is overflowing for your cup. In that way, your cup will never be empty. So I love, love,
It's so
love that.
good. Yeah, so good.
Tammie, one other thing that I love, and I have the feeling that this is going to be the beginning of a very nice relationship between you and me, because I think that we are very aligned in a lot of things. Other thing that I think that is important, and I would love to hear your input and your input, especially on how early we can do this and how we can accomplish it, is why is important to show our kids, our children, that it's okay to create time for the things that we care about.
Yeah, I think, we can talk to our kids all we want, and some of that goes in, but I think they learn so much from seeing how we actually do things, like actions speak louder than words. And so think about your kids when they're growing up. Don't you want them to have time of their own to do their own interest? Like if your kid ends up wanting to play piano, don't you want them to be able to play piano or dance or do whatever? But if we're teaching them that doing your own thing isn't important, then they're not going to make it important for themselves. And so I think it's important. I mean, even when they're a tiny, tiny baby, I think it's important to show like, I'm not going to be here every second of every day next to you. Sometimes I have to go to the bathroom. I mean, that's when it starts, right? Because I mean, when my kids were little, they followed me to the bathroom. I couldn't do anything. But it's important to say, I'm going to be alone for just a minute and I'll be right back, to teach them, one, that you still love them and you can do something for yourself at the same time, but to also just show that it is important for you to have your own thing. Even with my husband and my relationship, we have our own interests. We separate, during the day, we do our own thing and then we come back together and tell each other about it. And that's just a beautiful thing. And that shows our kids like, hey, you get to step away from whatever relationship you're in. If you're a family, a romantic partner, whatever, you can step away from that and do your own thing, and then you can come back and you'll have stuff to tell each other about, and it will be really beautiful and you can connect. So just showing them by example, I think, is so important.
And that is powerful and important because, like you were saying, an action is worth 1,000 words. And we can tell them as much as we want that, if, especially, and then this is the part that I want to hear your feedback as well, because you start with this on baby girls.
Mhm.
Also how different is for girls and boys, because also even when it's important to do it for both of them, I consider, and I want to love to hear your opinion, that is even more critical for a mom to model for baby girls. Because even if you are, even the boy is going to learn too, but the boy will also have the role model of, I'm a boy like that or like grandpa. So they are going to also have that balance of seeing men taking care of themselves and saying, hey, I'm going hunting and I don't care how many plans you have, I'm out of gun hunting. Or now in the World Cup, I'm
Right.
in the World Cup, I don't care how many things you have, don't come with me. Actually, I was in
Right.
a video of a guy that was saying like, I'm canceled, I'm
Right.
closed, I'm closed for business, I don't want to. So baby boys still have a little bit that balance. But even when it's important, I think that is even more important for baby girls, because baby girls don't have that balance. So they perpetrate into that of, oh yeah, mom is telling us that we can take care of do things, but I never see mom having fun. I never see mom sitting with us to eat a warm meal, because she's always eating cold after we finish. I never. So then it's like, who I am to do things and be worthy of things that I never saw my mom be worthy of.
Yes.
And so I think that that is fascinating. And one thing that I want to ask you is how early we can start doing that building of their mindset around this for both boys and girls, and then how we can do it. What are some of the tips that you can share with the moms on how they can start reinforcing those behaviors with their children, with their babies, with their toddlers?
Yeah, I mean, like with mine, I even started when they were like 2 and first we kind of started by you're going to play with this and I'm going to do this. So I like to knit. So I would knit and they would play with their blocks on the floor nearby. So even though we were together and I was making sure they were safe, they were still seeing that I was doing my own thing and they were doing their own thing. And then when they got a little bit older, I'm an artist. And so I would say, okay, we're going to have art time. You're going to be in this room and you're going to work on your art project. I'm going to be in mommy's room and I'm going to work on my art project. And we'll put a timer and then we'll come back together and we'll show each other what we made. And so that was just a really cool thing because we would go in separate rooms. And this is when they're older. I know they're safe. But we go in our own rooms and have our own space to do whatever we wanted. Like what my son didn't like to draw art, but he liked Lego. So he would be in the other room doing Lego. I would do art, and then we'd come back together and have show and tell. So they learned, oh, it's okay for us to do separate things. It's okay for us to like different things. It's okay for us to be away from each other. And then it's this magical thing when you come back and you're like, oh, look what I made. And I say, look what I made. And it's really fun. So I think that's how you can kind of start it, and just little by little you can increase how much time you're spending apart, or how the different activities. But I think it can start even just when they're a toddler and you can just play in the same room, but you're doing something different than them and they see like, oh, mommy likes something different than I like, and that's okay.
And I love how you are cycle back into the sharing at the end. So it's
Hmm.
not only it's okay for us to have different tastes, different preference, different things that we like, but also is reinforcing the behavior of that doesn't mean that we cannot still connect and enjoy each other. So it's also create that part of that diversity of that difference are okay, and what is different is not wrong, it's just different. So I love how you say, okay, we are going to separate and do what we love, and at the end we are going to come back and share with each other that part. So I really love that. Actually, and this one is hard, right? Because sometimes that implies that we need to do something for our self-care that hurt a little bit our mama heart. Like I'll give you an example with me and my toddler. My toddler is 16 months and he's still a very low sleep need. So he wake up a lot. So I'm still very sleep deprived.
Hmm.
So, so one of the things that we are doing with the sleep coach was helping him to get used to it, to get to bed with that. And it's hard because he's used to it, to go to bed with the booby and all that. But I was exactly doing that, is putting that boundary even with the baby, and just at bedtime hug him and say, hey, dad is going to put you to bed tonight because mommy really needs to sleep, mommy really needs to rest a little bit, you are going to be safe with daddy, it's going to be good. And then one of the things that the coach told me when she was coaching us was, make sure that you sound confident into it is okay. And I was thinking about you getting to different rooms, that it is okay, because if you are saying it but you are saying it like not sure, like you can go and play with the legos and I will do the art, or you can go with that and I will go to the other room, the kids are going to be like, she doesn't feel that confident, she
Yes.
she's not sure about this crap, if she's not sure, I'm not on board either. So it's very important that we also really trust and believe what we are saying. And then sometimes that we know what you are saying, that we need to fill our cup. And sometimes that means that we are having to do something that sometimes our child is not very keen about or is not very comfortable with, but we can do it in a lovely, kind way. So why you don't talk a little bit about that, into how we can handle those spaces where I think is a lot easier when everybody's on board. But what happened when we are trying to do some of these things and then the child had tears or the child is not comfortable with that? How we can still balance that?
Yeah, I think that you raise a really good point because we're taught that or we feel that our kids should never be disappointed or never be scared or never be sad. And that's just not true. Like that is part of human life and being a human on the planet is sometimes you're going to be scared. Sometimes you're going to be sad or afraid and it's okay. And so if we teach our kids like I know that you're sad and I see that you're sad and it's okay to be sad, I think it can just help you so much to know that you don't have to always make the sadness go away. Don't make the fear go away. Because then what it teaches us is it's not okay to feel sad. It's not okay to feel fear. And then we're still going to feel those. But if we're always pretending that we don't feel those, it takes so much energy. And then we don't know how to handle and cope with sadness or fear or anxiety. And so we can just acknowledge, I know you feel a little bit scared if mommy's in the other room, but it's going to be okay. And you can just say, let's try it for 1 minute. You can put a little timer. I have this cube timer I use for so many things with my kids or whatever. And just say, for 1 minute, let's just try it. And I know that you might feel a little scared, but it's okay. Go in the other room, time it for a minute, and then come back. See, everything's okay. And then you can just maybe increase it. But I think we do our kids a disservice when we try to make them not feel or not express sadness or fear or disappointment, all those things that we say are negative emotions. Because then that leads to adults like having a lot of problems expressing themselves and spending a lot of energy trying not to feel sad. And like some days you just feel sad and it's going to be okay.
And I love that. I don't know if you watched, you probably did, but I don't know if you watched, but one of my favorite movies, and I actually, when I'm coaching moms and coaching females, they get like, they're like, you want me what? And like, I want you to watch that Disney movie. It's a cartoon movie. I love a movie that's called Inside Out. Inside
Yep.
Out. It's the feelings, and you made me remember of that because that is so true. Of and it's also not only for them to teach them that it's okay to have all range of emotions and
Mhm.
that each emotion serve a purpose, because in the movie we learned that sadness is there in a corner and there is a moment that they need sadness to play a role in the little girl's life,
Yes.
but because she was never in the corner, then she doesn't even know and have the confidence to do it right. And also for us as moms to feel empowered to fill our cup, because then we are allow ourselves to feel all the emotions and don't feel guilty about those emotions. And some of those emotions that we fight so much because we are labeling as not good emotions are actually the signals for us as moms of time out, slow down, you need to fill your cup, slow down, time out,
Yeah.
you need to have some time for you. So how we can use those emotions to feed us and help us to navigate, versus what you were saying, work on tapping them down. And I truly believe, and that's how I coach a lot of females, is a lot of what the emotional eating happen when we start actually trying to find, and a lot of addictions, addiction of
Yep.
shopping, addiction to so many things, because we are trying to avoid those emotions. And I love what you were saying, how critical is that we understand that big picture, so we make sure that our kids don't grow up to repeat the same pattern in 15 years, in 20 years, in 30 years.
Yeah. One example I like to use about the emotions is, if you take a beach ball and it's inflated and you go to the ocean or to the pool and you try to push it down under the water. So that's like your emotion that you're pretending you're not feeling. So let's say it's sadness and you're like, nope, I don't feel sad. I don't feel sad. And you're trying so hard to keep it underwater. That beach ball wants to pop out of the water, right? So you're spending so much energy trying to pretend like it doesn't exist or doing other things, like you said, like, no, I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to go eat this. I'm going to go smoke, whatever, instead of just saying like, poop, let the sadness pop up and be there, and then it will just float away or it bounces somewhere else. And so to teach them like it's okay to say like, oh, you have this beach ball, this is sadness, I feel sad right now because, and I love to teach moms and kids that, to just say that sentence, I feel sad because mommy's going away for an hour or whatever. And that's okay. That's the full sentence. I feel sad because fill in the blank, and that's okay. And you just see the emotion and then it goes away. And then you're not, the sadness actually passes so much faster if you just let it up instead of trying to hide it and pretend it's not there and try to avoid it. So I think that's just a really good skill to teach our kids. And we're practicing it ourselves too, like you said, right? When we're like, I want to go work out for an hour and leave the kid alone, leave the kid with a babysitter or mom. And then they cry and you say, I know you're sad, but we're going to be okay. And you let them be sad, and then that helps you take the guilt off of you. It's okay for your kids to be sad sometimes. And then you go work out, and then you come home and you have a great experience with your kid because you've just filled your cup. They're okay, and it's all fine.
Absolutely. I love, love, love that. And talking about that, this one is going to be one of those that is not a very popular topic, but we are going
Good,
to
let's go.
because, and this is part of that generational baggage that I think that carries, and that
Mhm.
is for so many generations and decades, we are being the excuse of our moms not pursuing their dreams, of our moms not doing what they want to do. So it's all that sacrifice of I sacrifice my dream, I sacrifice what I want to do, I sacrifice this. So it's very very interesting when I was reading from preparing for this on your topics, how you actually share with your moms your kids don't want to be that excuse.
Yeah.
And then I will even say you're like you are giving, like you were saying, a disservice. You're doing a disservice to your kids at that tiny age, making them feel responsible for your own happiness.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because when you are not doing things that are important for you, it's evident that you are not happy. So how dare us as mothers to put that heavy load in the shoulders of our tiny ones, that they grow up feeling it's my fault. Of course, they don't do it consciously, but unconsciously. It's my fault that mom is not happy. It's my fault that mom is not living her life. It's my fault that my mom quit their business. And that will cascade into people pleaser, into self worth issues, self esteem issues, into not being able to take a space in the world because they grow into this. So it's going to talk a little bit about that and about why they kids don't want to be the excuse for us to not doing the things that are important for us.
Yeah, it's funny, this came up in sort of a funny story. So my husband and my 3 kids were sitting around the dinner table, and someone had given us one of those little card decks that has, like, conversation starters, and one of them said, like, "If you weren't doing the job you're doing now, what would you be doing?" And I said, "Well, if I didn't have kids, I would like to be a crime scene investigator." Because I like true crime, I think, I love investigating, I love that kind of stuff, and I just meant if I didn't have kids because I think that would be a hard job to do and then come home to little babies. I think it would be really hard to do both. And so that's why I said if I didn't have kids, I would do that. And my son looked at me and he said, "Did you want to be that and then you had us?" And I thought, "Oh my gosh, no, that's not what I meant." But I know a lot of moms do say stuff like that. Well, if I didn't have you, I would have gone. I have people I talk to in my life that say, "Well, if I didn't have kids, I would have gone to be a teacher or I would have done this." And I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, I hope your kids never hear you say that they're the reason why you didn't live your dreams." I think a lot of moms say it because that's the excuse for them not to have to go do the scary thing to go after a big dream, and they're like, "Oh, no, I have kids, I'm gonna stay home and take care of them." But what kid wants to hear that they're the reason that mom didn't live her dreams? And then, like you said, it does lead to people pleasing, and it leads, I think, to kids wanting to do what their parents want them to do since because they're like, "Since I killed your dreams, I'm gonna do what you want me to do now." Right? And it's like, most of the time, kids don't wanna do the job or profession or career that their parents wish they would do, right? Most of the time, it's a different thing. And then we just make it mean that if we want something different than our parents want for us, then we must be the wrong ones and that we should do what they want us to do. And so, yeah, I think you brought up a great point of all the things that it can lead to if they are taught that they are the reason for us not living our passion and our dream.
And I think I love the part of using the word excuse because how you did it, because it's like you are using your kids as an excuse for
Right.
not being brave enough to do the uncomfortable thing. And it's funny because that is something that is so common, right? Even I'm big into gentle parenting and attachment parenting. And one of the things that blow my mind with the same thought process is when it's like, you make me really sad,
Oh,
or
yes.
that makes me really angry. And then it's again the same as like we are using them as excuse to not take responsibility for our feelings, to not take responsibility for our actions, to not take responsibility for our fears, because it's safer to just say, oh, going back to the generational baggage, I am such a loving care mom that my entire life runs around you, and because of you these things are happening in my life. And we sometimes forget that we are the adult, not them. We are the ones that need to be wearing the big girl pants, not them. We are the ones that need to be dealing with some of that fear and scare. And I know that consciously there is not one single mom that want to push all that to their kids, but unconsciously that is what we are doing when we talk about those things, when we, like you say, when we say things like that in front of our kids, when we make our kids responsible for our feelings.
Yes. So I have 2 things to say about what you were just talking about. I had to write it down because 'cause I'm like, "I have to talk about this." So the first thing is when we use our kids as an excuse not to go live our dreams or go after a goal, I love to remind moms about the word "and." You can be a mom and go work out. You can be a mom and start your own cupcake business. It's not one or the other, and I think so many times as humans think either or instead of and. So I love to just remind the moms, and I mean, even with people, you can have gratitude and want to do more. You can do both. And so I just wanted to say that about like they're not the reason, they can be an and. I have kids and I do this other thing. And then the other really big thing that you talked about was how we think that people are responsible for our emotions. And this is, I think, probably what I work on with people the most is us feeling, especially women, especially moms, feeling responsible for other people's sadness or whatever. And it's actually, we can't go into their brain and wire the things together to make them feel an emotion. We just can't. We can't make somebody feel something. The way they interpret it and what they make it mean can make them feel happy or sad about it. And so I just love teaching people, like you said, we are not responsible for other people's feelings and they are not responsible for ours. So if our kid, wants to throw a fit in the middle of the grocery store, we get to decide how to feel about that. We could be angry, we could be embarrassed, we could say, "Oh, that's okay, honey. I understand you're upset." You know, there's 100 different emotions that we could decide to feel. We don't know that we can decide, but we get to decide. You can decide, "I'm not gonna be upset about this. I'm not gonna be embarrassed." You can decide whatever you want. And what that proves is that your kids' actions don't make you feel a certain way. It's the way that you interpret it. I have teenagers. Sometimes they say things that aren't very nice to me. I love my kids. They're amazing. But they're people. Sometimes they say things that aren't nice. I get to decide if I'm going to be hurt about that, or sometimes I just tell myself they have a lot of hormone things going on. This isn't about me. They're going to say their thing and it's okay. I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to take it personally. So I get to have that moment where I consciously choose how I'm gonna feel about what they said, instead of thinking like, "Oh, they said that, so of course I'm mad. They made me mad." That's not true. And what that does when we tell these kids, like, "You made mommy sad. You made that kid on the playground feel upset." It's not true, but what it teaches us is then we're responsible for everyone else's feelings. And then it turns into this giant people-pleasing monster where we think, "Oh, I'm the one that made them sad. I shouldn't do that anymore." And we start to quiet ourselves and not speak our own truth because we're so terrified that we're gonna hurt somebody else's feelings. But it's not. That's not how it goes. That's not how it works.
Actually, I was hearing a video of another female talking about this and makes so much sense. And that is, we are so much not responsible for other people's feelings that if I say exactly the same that make you sad in Spanish, You will not be
Yes.
sad.
Yes, that's so good, Joe.
Yeah. It's the same exact. I can give you exactly the same paragraph in English, and you're going to be like, "Oh, you hurt my feelings a lot," and then I can just say it exactly the same in Spanish, and you're going to be like, "Okay,
This is
cool."
assuming I don't know Spanish, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
assuming that
yes,
you don't know Spanish.
but
But
that's
then
such
that
a good
shows
point.
that is not what we said. Is like you were saying, the interpretation that the person that is receiving is having is what create their feelings. So how liberating is that we are conscious about that and start building that channel and that confidence in our kids for them to feel comfortable. Actually, I have a very fun story of a 4 or 5 year old girl that her mom was doing a lot of this work, and then grandma came and want a kiss, and and then mom told the girl that it was okay to choose if you don't want to give kisses to people, like it's
Yeah.
your body. You're not forcing adults to give each other kisses. So the girl was like, I don't want a kiss, and then grandma was like, oh, that makes me so sad. And the little girl went and went to grandma to like, it's okay, grandma. You can feel that, but I didn't make you sad. You choose to be sad, and that's okay, grandma. You can be sad. And in her little innocence 4 year old went to play because for her was so part of the norm, validate other people's feelings without taking responsibility for them and reflect to grandma like at that short age, this is my boundary. I'm not taking responsibility for how you are feeling based on my actions. So it is possible, and it requires a little bit more of work. But it's fascinating what we can do for ourselves and for our kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story. I love that so much. And, like, if we were all taught that, the world would be such a different place.
Can
I'm
you
not kidding.
imagine?
I mean,
Can you imagine?
yeah.
And then one of the things that I love to tell moms, because I was actually hearing a podcast of parenting, and there was a mom in tears saying like, oh my gosh, my kid is 12 years old, I wish I knew this 12 years ago. Because and then she was in tears saying, did I ruin my child? And then one of the things that the speaker was sharing is, first, no, because the brain takes up to 23 to 25 years to fully develop. So you actually have all that time. And then second, the beautiful phrase of, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best chance is today. So
Yes.
yeah, it would be nice if you learn all this when you are pregnant. Some of you are learning it as you are pregnant, so you can start from now. And then if you learn this with your kid being a toddler or a 5 year old or 6 year old, instead of getting into that emotion of shame and sadness, because I wish, just check it off and say, okay, from now on, I know
Yeah.
better. And as I know better, my kids are going to know better.
Yeah. I call that arguing with reality. So the reality is you did what you did. Why argue with it? It's in the past. The only thing it can do is make angst, upsetness in your body. It can't change what happened. And so let it go. And I like to have conversations with my kids. Hey, when you were little and I did that thing, that's not how I would handle it now, but that's what I knew at the time. And just be vulnerable and honest. I'm not perfect. I'm a human. I'm learning how to be a parent as I go. Nobody teaches you. You don't take, I mean, you can take parenting classes, but you can't teach every situation, right? And so I've had many conversations with my kids about like, hey, the way I handled that, I don't love how I did that. I didn't know any better at the time, but I do now, and it would be different if it ever happened again. And but there's no bashing myself about it. I'm just so compassionate with myself and say, you did the best you could at the time. Like you being sleep deprived, you might do things that like, maybe later you wouldn't do but right now you're going on an hour of sleep and you're a little bit grumpy and that's okay.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love about what you just said is, going back into that generational thing, is breaking the pattern of believing that because we are the parent, we always need to be right. And that I should not admit to my kids that I make a mistake. And if you see it, like if you see grandparents and great grandparents, and you talk with your grandparents and your parents, there is very few times that they even realize that their parents say, hey, I was wrong, because they have that hierarchy. I am
Mhm.
the parent, I'm always right. But when you are vulnerable and you actually admit, you also teach your kids that is not a requirement to be perfect. It's like, hey, I did that wrong because I didn't know better. So it's so powerful how everything gets connected, and how every day the choices that we take, starting from showing up for ourselves, had this cascading effect not only in our own life but also in the life of our children.
Yeah.
Tammie, I would love for you to share with the audience what are your top three advices for these mamas that are desiring to show up for themselves, to fill their cup. And then after you share that, how they can connect with you if they want to learn more from you.
Okay. Um, I'll just kind of recap a couple things that we said. Your kids do not want to be the excuse for you not going after your goals or your dreams. And that can even be a little goal. They don't want to be the reason why you didn't write the book or anything. Um, it's important to show your kids that you create time for the things that you enjoy, and to model that for them. So it's not just you saying it, it's you doing it and them seeing it. Um, the fill the cup thing, we'll just talk about it one more time. You don't have to fill your cup just to fill others. You get to fill it just because you're a beautiful human being and you deserve a full cup. And one more thing, even tiny actions can build up. Even if you just do something for 1 minute, it's amazing what you can accomplish. So if you're talking about fitness, you could do a wall sit or a squats while you're brushing your teeth. It's something, it's showing that your body's important. So those are my 4 takeaways for you. And yeah, I would love for you to go follow me on Instagram at Show Up Society. That's how you can connect with me. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, or just want to talk about how cool Joe is, then you find me on yeah, on Instagram at Show Up Society. I love hanging out with people there.
So it is at Show Up Society in Instagram, and I love your brief takeaway, the 4 points, and the last one is the I think one of the best ways to close this show around showing up, because you were talking about this early in the show, is that all or nothing mentality of, if I cannot go to the gym for 45 minutes an hour, then I cannot work out. And then that becomes also an excuse of, well, I don't have an hour of my day, so I cannot be healthy. If I cannot eat fully organic and whole foods, then I have to eat McDonald's. And instead of that, is I love how you're closing that for all the mamas. So please remember, show up society. What Tammie's saying is, it doesn't have to be a big step. It can be a tiny little increment while you are washing your teeth, like she was saying, while you are making the laundry. It's not about how big it is. It's about, and I think that you agree with this, it's about how consistent you are day after day, what is going to start building that momentum.
Yeah.
Tammie, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking with you. You are an ocean of knowledge. I can see how much you care and love what you are doing, and how deep is your mission to actually create that. Um,
I like to say, if you spot it, you got it. So Joe, if you're seeing that in me, you have it too. I mean, you really do.
Thank you. But it was very inspiring, and it was very empowering to see other moms out there being the beacon of light, saying, hey, it doesn't have to be this way, it can be different, and then together we can change it, not only for ourselves but for our kids and the next generation. So it is almost like, I almost feel that we are all holding hands, saying, okay, all this crap stays behind
Yes.
us, and we are not
Right.
allowing this to come after with our future generations. Tammie, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. For everybody else, please remember, at Show Up Society in Instagram. Go and follow her, send her love, share your insights, your takeaways, your aha moments from this show. And also remember that you can hear the Spanglish Radio Network in spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.